TRUTALK, brought to you by Truland Equipment. Join us as we explore cutting-edge machinery, groundbreaking technology, and inspirational stories from the field.
From the dedicated efforts of our team members to the triumphs and challenges of our farmers, TRUTALK brings you along every step of the way.
Whether you're a seasoned agriculturalist or simply curious about the industry, tune in to discover the fascinating intersection of technology, agriculture, and green machines.
TRUTALK, cultivating true conversations. Welcome back to the latest episode of TRUTALK. Today, 'tis the season, as Josh put it. We're going to be talking all about sprayers. So joining us today, we have Tim Miller. Tim,
Hello.
You want to introduce yourself?
Tim Miller. I am the Indiana Commercial Account Manager.
How do you remember all that?
I've said it enough times, I guess. It just sticks.
I prefer to call you sprayer guy.
Sprayer guy, I guess.
One of our sprayer guys for sure. So.
I think most of the company does. So do you want to talk a little bit about what your job entails and what that actually means in terms of your day-to-day responsibilities and your role within Truland?
Sure. So my job entails calling on and supporting sales and service for the commercial application customers that we have through Truland. So as far as what it means for me, day to day, I just take care of the commercial application business. But because of my past experience and prior job titles with this company, I've got a lot of account managers and customers that know that I have an idea of what I'm talking about, or at least I act like I do. And so they call on me a lot with phone calls and support.
So thus, the sprayer guy.
The answer man.
Yes.
Yeah, the sprayer guy. That's how you get that title. But yeah, Tim, Tim, I've known Tim for a while, obviously, but we brushed shoulders a little bit probably 25 years ago, back when we were both fairly new in the business, and I was working in the consulting side and a little bit in retail. And
Did you say 5 years ago?
25.
25 years ago.
25. Yes.
Just wanted to call that out.
Obviously, there's a handful of us in this business that kind of got brought up on that retail side of thing. And you said commercial applicators. You know, we can also call them fertilizer dealers or ASPs, ag service providers. They kind of all fit in that same category for sure. So,
Yep.
So you deal with a lot of big customers across the state.
I do. They cover thousands of acres each and have anywhere from 3 to 8 or 9 machines out applying fertilizers, chemicals, herbicides, insecticides, pesticides, all that stuff.
'Tis the season.
It is the season.
Yeah, this is the season where, obviously, the time of the year, we're doing lots of pre-emerge and just finished up a whole bunch of fertilizer. Then we moved into, so we did a lot of dry. Now we're moving into a lot of liquid, and it's moving very quickly from one product to another, especially given the weather this year. I feel like things are moving even faster.
At any given moment right now, we might have some dry still going on. We might have some bulk 28 going on. We might have some burn down. We might have
It's so variable.
Early pre, early post. Everything is happening right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's just a lot of pressure, and it's moving very fast.
Very fortunate to have a very vast lineup of commercial equipment
Yes.
in this business. True or false, Tim?
That is true. That's one thing with joint venture between Hagie and John Deere, which brought me into the John Deere world. That gave this company, John Deere, the complete lineup, full season spectrum of equipment. When they brought the floater in, they've got the liquid and dry floater. We've got the rear boom row crop sprayer, the front boom high clearance sprayer, row crop dry. We have a full lineup.
You know, that the floater was kind of a game changer. I know obviously the Hagie somewhat of a game changer, but we were going to sell sprayers. It was either going to be a Deere or a Hagie, but that floater just put us in a position to take a step forward, didn't it?
Yes.
It's been so far so good from what I've seen out there and heard out there.
It really has been, coupled with the new liter dry box and then the liquid bed now built by Hagie. It's a pretty nice machine.
And then intermingling the technology almost seems endless when we start talking about some of the technology that we can intertwine with all these types of machines, mostly run by our displays, right? Our Deere displays. And then start thinking of some of the spray technology, and Jordan had brought up before we started here, ExactApply.
I think ExactApply is a big one. I mean, there's a lot of compliments about ExactApply, and there's a lot of good data to back that. I mean, these are not baseless claims when you're talking about the benefits of ExactApply. And so I think that it's important that we talk about it. And then obviously my role from a technology perspective, ExactApply is the big technology component that we're looking at when we're looking at the investment of upgrading to a See and Spray puck. So I think that, just calling out and bringing awareness to ExactApply technology is important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And first and foremost, so it is ExactApply and ExactEmerge were the two primary Exact technologies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So ExactApply was one of the first, right?
Yep.
And I know we've got several Exact technologies now to talk about when you talk about Exact Rate, the fertilizer on the planters, and then Exact shots. But so ExactApply was the pulse width modulation, right, system on the John Deere sprayer, which pulse width modulation was nothing new, but ExactApply made it fantastic.
Yeah, the pulsing technology on the sprayers has been around for 20 years, pretty close. But with the advancements that ExactApply brings on bringing two nozzle bodies basically into one with two solenoids, it really opens the door on capability with those systems.
Like capability, like what?
Of course, all of them have turn compensation, individual nozzle control, but the ability to apply higher rates, still being able to pulse and control your pressure is one, and then being able to do variable rate per nozzle, which is a new thing for this year. You or either 25 or 26, but you can actually put two different nozzles in, one in the front, one in the back, and it will choose whether it wants the front, the back, or both to put the right rate on based off the pressures you want for variable rate per nozzle when you're applying.
So that increases that range of gallons per acre we can spray with one setup, right?
Yeah, I can. What I'm seeing with that, and that's new for this year, is being able to pulse with the switching at the same time. We used to be able to switch A to B or both, and that was based off of a pressure range you were after for a non-pulsing nozzle, which would be like an air-inducted nozzle.
Right.
But this year they've got it to where you can pulse while you're doing that, and the thing that brings is you can put two nozzles on, and you can do anywhere from 10 gallon to the acre to 25 or maybe 30 gallon to the acre with one set of nozzles and never have to change them for all those rates.
So the turn compensation is awesome. The individual nozzle control is awesome. Those are things that have been in the industry forever. When you start talking about some of that, the dual solenoids and being able to do the combined A/B or A plus B or A/B switching, and now you've got the pulse width modulation. Again, to me, that's the thing that starts to set us apart, right? Is that wide range of application gallons per acre we can put on.
Yep.
And then again, if people don't understand, one of the huge just standard given benefits of ExactApply is that you can catch a lot of rates while you control your pressure.
Yeah.
Right. So historically, when we wanted to increase our rate, we had to jack the pressure up. Then we started getting more fines, right, and concerns about drift and off-target movement. The pulse width modulation in ExactApply just gives us that ability to expand that application range without messing with that spray pressure.
Yeah, that's correct. Huge benefit because of being able to control your pressure to maintain the droplet size that you need per the label.
Yep.
Which is recommended on every label. This gives you the ability to vary your speed if you're maintaining the same rate and keep your pressure, or change rates if you need to. The other thing you can do with it, with having the two solenoids, the front and the back nozzle, is you can have two different styles of nozzles. So if you're worried about yards and things like that around the outside and you really want to control your drift, you can get a super high drift control nozzle. And then if you want a little bit better coverage throughout the field, maybe a little less concern of drift or overspray, you could switch to a little finer droplet size in the middle of the field.
Nice.
Which was huge when dicamba first came out, because you had to run your borders as one and maybe switch to something else in the middle.
Yeah.
Which despite dicamba kind of being less prevalent now than we have seen it in past years. I mean, it's kind of a fairly recent change that I feel like it ramped up quite a bit, and then now we've kind of backed off a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of that's legal issues.
Right.
Yep, with a lot of the
labels. I feel like it's going to come back up. It's going to have to come back up again, I think, because it's effective and it works.
So I think a couple of things that we're going to eventually get to that I've got perfect segues into the next topic, but I don't think we're ready for that yet.
Are you prepared? So you prepared for this?
I didn't actually. It's all came to mind, but the two solenoids.
That's what he does.
The two solenoids in the nozzle body make it very simple for John Deere to create a 2-product spray system.
Sure.
Which we will talk about in a little while, and then the dicamba. What was that comment that you just made me think of it?
That it might be coming back in because it works.
Yeah, and the dicamba coming back in, I think we might be able to see some more of that with the next product we're going to talk about later on today. Yeah,
for sure, because it's got to be in the equation. And dicamba, quite honestly, has driven, we start talking about nozzles, it's driven the quest for nozzle development. It's obviously had a huge hand in a lot of the technologies as far as nozzles go, too. So.
I think it's driven it for sure, but I also think that since we have gotten there and since customers have started to use it, they've recognized other benefits with this technology.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Other than just outside of the broad scope of dicamba.
Right. One question before we go into the nozzles is, at first I feel like ExactApply was, and I don't know that it shows that maybe in what you've dealt with on the sales side, but, it's an investment, and it is investment. But, you kind of feel like, okay, maybe the fertilizer companies or the ASPs would be the ones that would more likely to be the people to invest in this and whatnot because of the acres they're covering and that. But, the reality is ExactApply has a place on farms as well. And it's kind of a topic of conversation. We really need to encourage the use of that technology for everyone that has a sprayer.
Yeah, it's ExactApply has a fit everywhere. In an ag retailer, it can take the new operator who's maybe not that good of an operator and can make him a pretty good operator because of the individual nozzle control, the instant on-off, being able to control your pressure. So you can take an average or new operator, make him pretty decent. You can take a good operator and make his life easier. And then, when you look on a farm and the benefits towards a grower are the same with on the ag retail, what I'm going to say for the farmer. But on the farm side, you've got more growers going into RTK, using advanced technologies like SFRTK, being able to create your boundaries for the individual nozzle shutoff.
Yep.
It really improves your efficiency as you're trying to drive straight through waterways that you've bordered, and
something we used to outline. We can now we should be able to drive straight through now.
Yeah, you can really increase your efficiency with that.
So there's a place for it,
which obviously takes other technologies, but ExactApply has to be a part of that to make it work.
Right. Yeah, and it's an investment again, but it's obviously a worthwhile investment and has good resale. And that being said, so it's a system that has a learning curve. So particularly when you start talking about the A/B switching, nozzle sizing, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then also there's still some, what you brought up, I think you already brought up air induction nozzles too. There's also some nozzles that will and won't work. I think we've done a pretty good job of getting some technologies like air induction to actually function with PWM, where at first it wasn't recommended, probably because of the fact that air inductions require that, consistent stream of air coming in to make them work. And when you're turning them on and off, you lose that. But there's been some design improvements in some of the newer nozzles that have widened out.
To my knowledge, I think there's still only one air inducted nozzle that will work with it.
Will or won't work.
Will work.
And that's the
ultra low drift max.
Yeah, ULDM, right? The dicamba nozzle.
In my opinion, it's the best pre-corn herbicide burn down. That is an amazing nozzle. Yeah. I use it for everything except Liberty.
It's almost
and fungicides.
It's almost a mini flood.
Yeah,
the way it functions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So nozzle selection. There we go. So I'm gonna kind of just jump in here and say, okay, I always take the agronomic approach when someone asks about nozzles.
As you should.
Well, absolutely. And the reality is, I think the days of saying, hey, I just wanted to have one nozzle does all, those days need to be over.
They do. And that's actually one of the conversations that I have with a lot of folks. They're like, oh, well, we just use this one nozzle for everything. And that's fine. It will function with that. But you're doing an okay job with everything.
Right.
Most likely you're not doing the best job for everything.
And it's a pretty small investment when you configure the damages of potential liabilities of drift and some things like that you control. Or quite honestly, controlling resistance by doing a good job at applying.
I was
Or-
going to say, even if you're just giving up potential yield in the future
Right.
because you're creating a resistance that didn't need to be there by doing an okay
right.
job.
Or maybe you're not getting good enough coverage when you're applying fungicides, right? Because you're just using a one nozzle does all.
And
So
thus giving up yield or money or, you know.
Absolutely. It doesn't
Yeah,
take long
absolutely.
to pay off a good set of nozzles. And we know we've talked about that at length, but my first question is, okay, tell me what you're spraying. You know,
Oh, yeah.
I want to know what you're spraying from an agronomic standpoint. Okay, are we just talking pre-plant? Are we talking post? Are we doing any fungicides or late season, foliar feeding? And obviously is dicamba or even enlist in the equation. And then all of a sudden you start breaking out the potential nozzle lineup that it would take to accomplish, whatever that customer is wanting to do in their spectrum.
Yeah, that's definitely a conversation I have. Actually, I was doing a demo last week with a customer and demoing the ExactApply, and he said, "So, how do you know which nozzles to put on here?" And I said, if you end up moving on it, I sit down with the customer and we talk about exactly what you just said, Josh. I want to know, what your program looks like. What are you going to spray? How much are you going to spray? And what chemicals, especially in the soybeans. Because if you look at, you said dicamba and enlist, you also have to look at Liberty in that.
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
that one's pretty critical because of the coverage need for that product to function.
Liberty's been a godsend. It's come back in strong the last
It
several
has.
years, and it has. And to me, the nice thing about Liberty is you can spray it late, and you can spray it a lot of times when you're wanting to go out and spray fungicide on soybeans, and usually the same nozzle will work with both of those pretty well.
I mean, Liberty has definitely filled in the dicamba gaps for sure.
Yeah,
It's taken over for a lot of the Roundup too.
right. It's
Yep.
been a late season. It's been a godsend for us right now. Now, again, I don't know how long that's going to last, but obviously, enlist is not quite as bad as dicamba in terms of how it can drift or volatilize, but still, we want to treat it carefully.
Yep.
And it's one I think that, let's be honest, with the back off on dicamba, enlist has picked up as well, and it concerns me a little bit. At some point we're going to hit a place where that chemistry may start to struggle.
Yeah, I think we'll hit a place where that chemistry can start to struggle. I think the difference is we've seen what happens with Roundup when we overuse it and don't use enough of it.
Right.
I think guys are starting to shy away from trying to save $1
Good.
by cutting their chemical costs and using 75% rate. They'll use a full rate,
Right.
and they'll mix it with a full rate of Liberty. I'm seeing a lot more of that.
And say a lot of more people are getting smart about their tank mixes as a whole, rather than we're just putting one shot of a
Right.
broad herbicide, for
Yeah.
whatever they're trying to spray. But I feel like people are getting better about, we're using multiple modes of action, and we're not trying to save $1. Our herbicide program is not where we're trying to save $1.
Yeah.
But enlist is a 2,4-D technology, and if you look back historically, 2,4-D's been around even longer than glyphosate, back
It has
into
been.
the 60s.
Yeah.
So it's been here a long time. So at some point,
Still works well on broadleaves.
yeah, it does. But it also it can struggle a little bit in stress conditions. I'm kind of finding out. So back to that ExactApply and doing a good job and having the right nozzle. You want to limit any risk you can by doing the best job applying that you can.
This is not the situation to be a jack of all trades, master of none.
That's right. Right. So again, we go back to what are you doing? Are you doing any pre-planning? Let's just bring the big gun out right now. You talked about the ULD Max, right? Because from a farmer standpoint, if they're even doing any light flooding or light early burn downs or higher volume spraying, you're a fan of that nozzle in that situation too. We're not talking 30 to 40 gallon. We're talking maybe 20.
I've seen guys use it with 30-gallon work. They
Okay,
just use
20.
2 with ExactApply.
Okay, 20 to 30 gallons. So it is like a mini flood. And that again, that nozzle, that ULD Max, ultra low drift max, was truly brought in my opinion, to be a dicamba nozzle.
It was designed around the dicamba product because of the volatilization of the dicamba chemical,
Right.
Getting up and moving.
Yep.
That it's got amazing drift control, and it gets the droplets and the chemical down on target.
Unbelievably consistent droplet size at reasonable pressures and a pattern. And wish we could show people the nozzles on a spray table while we're talking about them. But that's been a dog, right, in our lineup. And there's been some other, maybe we can talk about the ultra low drift and the low drift max, which are almost interchangeable in my opinion.
About the only difference between the two is one's air inducted and one is
Right.
not.
So one works with ExactApply PWN, one does not.
Yep.
So they're just a step down, maybe a little bit smaller droplet size, still a very good enlist tip. Can get away with dicamba.
Yep.
Definitely a post spray tip.
Oh yeah.
I would say.
Yeah, I've actually got some that will use the LDM and an ExactApply and run it at higher pressures for Liberty.
Okay.
So Liberty calls for a medium.
Yep.
Actually read the label on the new Liberty Ultra product, and it said medium or coarser.
Right.
So I think they realized that the medium droplet size can give you a lot of fines
Right.
when you're spraying with it. And we've got some nozzles that are amazing for that. But there's some concern with drift and trying to mix Enlist and Liberty together, those two products. You end up with one wanting a coarse droplet and one
Right.
wanting a medium droplet. You need something kind of in the middle. And that Low Drift Max or the ULD, if you have a non-ExactApply sprayer,
Yep.
those two are a good kind of in between and can get you coverage as well as control.
So that's your versatile nozzle, and I would agree
Yeah.
with that. That's the one. If guys are really really bent on just, hey, I just need one nozzle, then they'll say this is the one we're going to go with, and you're going to change how you use it, your pressures and whatnot,
Yeah.
depending on what you're spraying, and try to shoehorn it. And
Yep.
it is probably the most versatile lineup in the nozzle in the lineup. I would agree with that. But in a perfect world, we've got the ULD Max, and then we have the what's been one of our favorite nozzles recently is the 3D
Yeah.
nozzle as well. So what can you tell us about that particular?
Well, the
nozzle?
3D is an amazing nozzle when you're needing coverage. And when everybody thinks of Liberty or fungicide, they think coverage. It's got an angle to it, so it's spraying forward and backward. You put one forward, the next one beside it, spraying backward, so that you can get kind of an inward as you're going and an outward as you're going away to get the coverage of the chemicals that way. It's a fine to coarse or a medium to coarse droplet size, depending on the pressure. You get into some of the bigger ones, the 06 and 08 range. You can actually drop the pressure down and be able to get more of a coarse droplet size to control the drift a little bit. But that is an amazing nozzle and the one that everybody loves when it comes to spraying fungicides.
That's been the one that we've had the most excitement about at all our application clinics that we put on. And to me, that's the late season crop health. I would call it a canopy buster because it does seem to do a good job of forcing stuff down into the canopy. And
Which it doesn't hurt that the conversation around the crop health application, just area in general, has increased.
right.
Yeah,
in
it really
recent
has.
years.
I mean, that trip's almost a given with everybody, right? Even in soybeans, And the nice thing is if you're going to go out and you're going to use a Liberty at that time, which you can get away with doing, and it's that nozzle just is great for Liberty plus fungicide plus maybe some boron, and it just works in a nice little package.
Yep.
Josh and his boron.
Yep.
When guys are using the Liberty side of that, I usually encourage them to drop the pressure a little bit to try and control the drift some.
Yeah.
And then when they're doing the fungicides, juice it up and get that blast down in the canopy and get it swirling around and
Find that
bottom
medium.
side of the leaf, top side of the leaf.
So we get a lot of questions about sizing nozzles. I think we've proven we've got a John Deere High Pro has a phenomenal nozzle lineup, some of the best, probably the best in the business, and they're still engineering and looks like they're going to build on this 3D technology and some new stuff coming. So stay tuned for that. But they've got a lineup that from head to toe can cover anybody for anything, and it's awesome. But sizing nozzles, selecting and sizing nozzles for ExactApply or pulse width modulation. Again, we know, as we've said, there are some nozzles that you can't use, some of the AI nozzles. Obviously, you want to consult the manual on these nozzles to make sure, or ask, call your dealership or your sprayer guy to make sure you're selecting the right nozzle for your system. But as far as sizing goes, when you talk ExactApply, we've already talked about it, A or B, A plus B, A, B switch. And then you have to figure your duty cycle in as well, right? First of all, let's explain what duty cycle is.
So duty cycle is how fast the solenoid is pulsing, if you will, how fast it's cycling. 100% duty cycle would be wide open. 0 would be completely closed.
So basically, we're going to set a rate at a certain pressure, and if that rate's going to go up, without raising the pressure, the duty cycle's got to increase. Right?
Yeah,
that pulse has to increase. Right. So therein, it brings in a little bit of headroom, if you will, when you start talking about nozzle sizing. So how do you usually work through that with guys?
Well, as we talked about, we go through to figure out what they're going to spray. And with that conversation, I need to know how fast they're going to spray. And I want the top end speed because my goal is to always get, so in the duty cycle, when we're talking about that, like 75% duty cycle is kind of what John Deere has said is the ultimate as far as
Just consistently spray at.
Yeah. Yep. It's
Going through
like
the field.
you're not going to wear them out as fast. You're just, it's consistent. It's good. They say that's kind of the ultimate spot. I like to open that up to more of a range of 60 to 80. So 60% to 80% on the duty cycle. But I need to know how fast, the fastest that they'll go, to be able to size it towards the top end of that, in that 75, 80%. Because if you slow down, your duty cycle will just slow down a little bit with you.
Sure.
So finding out their speed, finding out their rates, and then seeing if there's some overlap. So if you look at the Ultra Low Drift Max, the ULDM that we discussed, you've got a burn down, you've got corn post, and probably bean post if you're spraying an Enlist type product or a dicamba type product. And so you've got 3 applications with one. Generally, those are all going to be in the same rate range.
Right.
So you might be able to figure that up, and depending on their speed, they may say, I've had some that are like, well, I'm going to spray anywhere from 12 to 20 gallons of the acre in those. So the rate ranges will change in places, and when you do that, a 12-gallon nozzle is not ideal for 20-gallon work, or a 20-gallon nozzle is not ideal for the 12-gallon work.
Right.
And that's where having the A and B, or both, you can run like a 12-gallon nozzle in the front, something more of a 15 or 18 in the back, and maybe use that one or both of them for your 20 or 25-gallon work.
Right. So that's what I was going to get at too. Is there's a point in there you got to split and say, okay, we've pushed this too far. We got to start talking A/B, because some guys may want to get by with just one nozzle.
Yeah, and you can do that a lot. If a guy's going to consistently stay at 15 gallons of the acre, you might be able to get by with one nozzle and just size it to match his speed, and then he's going to have a speed range that would be optimum or acceptable from like maybe 9 mile an hour to 20 mile an hour. You can get a pretty wide speed range in them.
Okay.
And still stay in an acceptable duty cycle range, with the ultimate or the optimum being, maybe more in the 18 or 19 range where they're going to normally run. You don't want to size it all the way up to 100%, because if it's 100%, you're not going to have any turn compensation.
Right.
They just can't open up to let any more out.
Right.
With turn compensation, that's part of the reason why you want to stay kind of at the 75% so you can turn. But I like to push that up a little bit, maybe 80 or 85%, because typically when you're turning, you're going to slow down. So your duty cycle will naturally come down some anyway.
And again, you're pushing that up because you want them to be able to catch that high end of pressure and still have room to go down to the low end of low speed range and keep that one nozzle, right? And I agree with you on the turn compensation. Obviously, again, when you're talking about duty cycle, if you've got it pegged and then you go into turn compensation, you can't
it just can't go any faster because it's wide open.
You can't increase the flow in that outer wing because you've already maxed out your duty cycle. And so it's interesting. So it's sizing one tip is not that difficult. Starting to break it into the 2 tips is where it can get put a little work into it.
Yeah, you got to put a little work into it. When you're sizing just one tip, the biggest thing that you got to, and it's simple to remember, if you size it at 100%, you just got to divide it by 0.75, and that's the size of nozzle you need. It's just going to be bigger than, usually it's a size or 2 bigger than what you would need for standard
you're
spraying.
adding 20-25% headroom for that duty cycle to drop down.
Yep.
Right. So do you use, Jordan, I'm sorry, I'm hogging the microphone here.
We already knew that was going to happen.
Do you ever use we get on the simulator every once in a while, and you can get in there and use the nozzle sizing tool and look at something over. Do you ever use that?
No.
Nope. Okay.
I'm old school.
Okay.
I have a spreadsheet. I do. I am new school enough that I use my computer to view the spreadsheet instead of a book with the chart.
But you're talking about
Do
overlap.
you use Command F?
No.
Because you got to have that overlap, right? When you're sizing those A plus B nozzles.
If you're doing the switching, you have to have the overlap.
So what overlap are you talking about? I mean, we're talking a pressure range overlap, right?
Well, on the old school one, it would, you'd size in, you wanted a pressure range, like just, so this would be standard spraying, not pulsing. You would have, say, a goal of 40 to 60 PSI. And then it would give you the speed range based off of that. And you have to have those overlap for it to work.
The speed ranges.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
The speed ranges have to overlap so it can switch front to back to both.
Which that is integrated into the machine itself.
Absolutely.
It is, and that's what he was saying with the simulator is a good way to go through and figure that.
There's a way
and
to check your work.
It's an easier way to check your work.
Yeah.
With the pulsing and doing that, you've got a much wider speed range. So to get them to overlap is very simple.
Yeah.
I had one the other day that I set up. It was, I think I had an 05 on the front and an 08 on the back, which made a 13 total with them both. And when I would change rates from 12 to 15 to 20, you would see the speed ranges change a little bit, but there was so much overlap because of the pulsing capability that they've got.
And that's the new.
That's the new auto switching with pulsing.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Pretty complicated stuff. Software to make that happen. Yeah.
But I'm still old school. I don't use that simulator too much. I have a spreadsheet and a piece of paper and a calculator.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you're talking, again, if a guy's going to buy 3 nozzles and he's going to do A and B on all 3 nozzles, that's 6 nozzles that you got to be.
Which we can put on the ExactApply nozzle body.
Yep.
I've actually got some that have 7 or 8.
Wow.
But that's because of the products they're running. They'll do high volume 28 work, and then they'll do a burn down. And then they've got the fungicide, and they've got streaming nozzles for weed. And
As I say, you have to think about
These
these
are
are
machines
machines that are running multiple passes.
and that's where you're going to get that more with an ag retailer than you will with a grower. I've had growers that, the AB option was amazing because they had 2 nozzles. They had a corn nozzle and a bean nozzle.
Nice.
Corn on A, beans on B, and they could just choose whichever one they wanted.
No
It was
AB
simple.
switching there.
No,
Just
it was manual
careful.
switching, and that was when they changed crops. It was pretty
fantastic.
simple.
Yeah. And then you brought up the streamer. I think the streamer's forgotten. I love our streamers. I'm a big fan of 28 Namthio on wheat early, and those streamers are awesome.
Yeah, I would agree.
For top dressing wheat. So.
Yep.
Yeah. Lot of great technology, a great nozzle lineup. Again, don't want to sell our John Deere High Pro nozzle lineup short. Some of the best in the business. Again, I think for years people didn't even know we had a nozzle lineup, and once they get a hold of it and they realize the technology's absolutely outstanding. So
I think a lot of the reason they didn't realize it, at least in Indiana that we ran into, is we had the Indiana Spray Center, and they focused heavily on spraying or selling sprayers.
Yeah.
And with that, no offense to the parts departments that were working with them, they didn't deal with sprayers as much. So they just didn't know as much about the sprayer specific parts like nozzles.
Yep. It's been getting integrated into our business more and more.
Yeah, it's been definitely growing over the last 9 years that I've been here.
It's good. Way to go, sprayer guy.
Thanks.
Well, speaking of some of the other technology that's the best in the business, or what I would consider the best in the business, I think that we would be remiss if we talk sprayers without talking See and Spray,
Correct.
especially ExactApply.
Yeah, talking ExactApply, we have to talk about See and Spray anymore.
Yeah, I think that they're, the
And
tech.
something we haven't mentioned is pressure recirculation and product reclaim.
Oh, do you want to talk that first?
I think we should.
We can go back to the foundations and we can build up to See and Spray.
Yeah,
That
because
makes sense.
with the ExactApply, something else that's came besides everything we've talked about is the addition of pressure recirculation and product reclaim.
Yeah.
And being able to prime your boom without having to spray anything out. You talk about agronomic. You're not wasting chemicals.
Right.
You're not blowing it off in a side ditch or back by a woods or in a driveway.
Not cleaning out old junk.
Not
and
cleaning
stunting
it.
part of the
Yes,
field. That was
yeah.
common for years.
So you can prime your boom just by turning the pump on and waiting a couple minutes, and then when you're done, you can reclaim that product back in the tank. You talk about spraying atrazine. What's the worst thing for atrazine is leaving it sit in the boom. It turns to paste.
Yeah.
So being able to reclaim that back into the tank, because in the tank you can agitate it, and you can keep it, get it stirred back in and to where it's usable again.
It's a big deal.
It is.
People don't think that, but everybody gets frustrated when they start spraying their field and they stunt the first 100 feet because we couldn't get that cleaned
Yes.
out. And
One of the first things that I thought of this morning when you were talking about how the increase in drainage systems is pushing a lot of water back into our streams, I was like, oh man, good thing we have that.
Yeah. Well, and
How
so
much better that is now.
there's your segue. You talk about we're spraying chemicals. We're trying to save the waste. We're not just stunting the beans.
Right.
And then you talk about that runoff going into the waterways or into the streams and rivers.
Yep.
I'm not a huge super green guy, if you will, as far as the environment, but still
We're all
with
environmentally conscious.
we
though.
are. We have to be in
aware.
this business.
Yes,
Yeah,
we're aware. We have to be.
We need the environment we
Yes.
raise crops. We need the environment to be friendly to us.
Yes.
There's a misnomer that we don't care. That's just not true.
Yeah, and that
Right.
brings us to the new technology of See and Spray, of only spraying where you actually need to be.
right.
Need to spray it.
Right. Major big technology, right, Jordan?
Yeah. Well, so the big thing for obviously, and you talked a little bit about that, we'll get more into the See and Spray Ultimate, but I think the natural in between conversation occurs with the See and Spray puck kits.
Yep. Which
So
See and Spray Premium, which can be a puck or ordered from the factory.
correct, yes. But that is just our standard single product system, offering the See and Spray technology, so the cameras and the on-off capabilities, based on what the cameras are seeing and all of that controlling system. So, but when we're talking about upgrading from just a standard, we ordered more in the puck kit line of conversation. When we talk about that, it always comes up as a puck kit. Well, the big investment in a puck kit solution is going to be adding the ExactApply technology.
Yeah, if you don't already have that, that's going to be your first big step.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people think that, if you have See and Spray technology, that's the big deal, and it is a big deal, obviously, for many reasons. And we've talked about See and Spray technology on the podcast multiple times. And I think that most people are familiar with what the technology is at this point. But the big investment and the big technology solution there isn't actually the cameras itself. It's the ExactApply and the pulsing technology, which I just think is crazy.
The big building block, and when you look at building up to those technologies, you have to have the base.
Yep.
I mean, it's like AutoPath is really awesome, but you have to have AutoTrack to have AutoPath.
Yeah.
Same type of thing. You've got to have the ExactApply to be able to build up to the See and Spray, and the ExactApply is the big chunk. So
and
once a
AutoTrack.
guy and AutoTrack, yeah, you'll want that stuff too. But the having the ExactApply, if a guy's got that, it really doesn't take that much more to get it up to be a See and Spray machine.
Yeah.
And take advantage of being able to spray targeted.
Yeah.
In the fields.
Yeah.
Love the conversation around See and Spray because it always opens the door for really deep discussion with our customers. Why do I need this? How can I use this? And from an agronomic standpoint, again, it excites me just thinking about what we can do in the future. What kind of restrictions are we going to have in the future? We've talked about the fact that we've lowered our dicamba use. What if we have to bring dicamba back in hot and heavy to control a weed that everything else is failing at? I believe this technology is going to open the doors for a lot of stuff.
Yep.
And, there's a couple things you think about. First of all, savings have been proven. When you use this technology, you're usually talking 40 to 60% chemical savings.
Yeah.
At the drop of a hat. I mean,
Yep.
50% is a good number. I mean, it's incredibly consistent what we've seen demoing this and spraying this for the last 3 years. So that's good. And then you got the customer that says, hey, how do I fit this into my plan? I don't know how to fit this into my chemical plan. And the response is, hey, well, the best way to look at this is how can I, detail or set up a chemical program to make it work with See and Spray.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of folks that they don't catch on. They look at it and they say that doesn't fit my plan, and really they should be looking at it and say, how do I change my plan to make it fit around See and Spray?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I mean, I think that application in and of itself, you talk about the legal components, you talk about the financial component, commodity markets, equipment costs, all of that stuff factors into, their program at the end of the day. But I think that you're spot on when you say, you need to be looking at this from how do we factor that into what we're doing into that? Because you're, at the end of the day, you're playing a game of what ifs. We don't know what the legal situation is going to be. We don't know what the herbicide situation or resistance situation is going to be.
Yep.
I mean, you are just trying to shot in the dark. What are we going to do? And can we create a plan that works for us not only today, but 3, 5, 10 years down the road?
And can we be can we be the ones at the leading edge of this? And you know what? I don't know anybody that would ever complain about saving 50% on chemicals, right? Nobody's going to complain about that.
The ag retailers.
That
is where they make most of their money.
But you know what? They've been some of the ones that have been in line for this technology, and they're going to make it.
They have. It's been interesting because until about a year ago, the ag retail market was pretty shy against it. And I still have some that are adamantly opposed to it. But I'm getting more and more that are trying to wrap their head around it. We've got some of the See and Spray premium pucks out this year, and they're starting to wrap their mind around that. And they see where the ultimate machine will be the go-to machine that they will be using, which is a 2-product machine. Well, I'm sure we'll get to that later. But that's huge.
Let me back up. I don't know any farmer that's going to
There you
complain
go.
about
There you
saving 50% on chemicals. And the other question, there's two other sides to this. And the second question, I'd love to just ask them, would anybody really complain about not having to lay chemicals out on every acre? I don't think we want to have to use chemical if we don't
No,
have to.
and so that's correct, and that's the selling pitch for the ag retailer.
Right.
Because what they're seeing is not only are you saving 40 or 50% of your chemicals, or 60%, you're increasing your yield on soybeans by 3 to 4 bushels per acre.
That was my point number 3. That's the one we've not truly probably hit as hard as we should. Is we know that herbicides can be hard on crops.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're starting.
We see that.
Yeah, we see it.
Yeah.
They look like crap. I don't want anybody to take a picture of a field after it's been sprayed.
But even after, even when you're spraying something that they're resistant to, like
they still have to metabolize it.
They have to metabolize it,
and
digest it, and it slows them down. And
that's right. So that yield increase component is something we've just kind of started talking about recently. And when you're starting to see a yield benefit where you didn't apply chemical, that's going to speak volumes.
Oh yeah,
in my opinion,
I agree.
So we're getting some wins stacked up here for See and Spray technology.
I just think that from an ag retailer perspective, it's just a mentality shift, right? Like we're not, instead of making our money from the product that we're actually applying, it's going to more of you're paying for the application itself and less of a product.
There's a fine balance there that you have to work with.
Very fine.
Because
very fine.
Because of a grower mindset, the grower has to see a savings to justify it from the ag retailer. Because if there's no actual savings for the grower, he's going to be like, I'm not going to pay you the extra. I'll just put the chemical on there, then I know it works. Because they're still a little hesitant too on whether it's truly going to work for them.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I think a program can be built around the See and Spray technology that will benefit the grower of having less chemical put down, potential increased yield, and then also benefit the ag retailer at the same time that can, they're selling some products and then being able to sell the application then on top of that.
And, let's be honest, residuals still have a place. As long as water hemp is in the program, residuals will have a place. And that kind of leads us into that whole, you can use this one maybe premium sprayer to spray a residual pass by itself and then come back and do a See and Spray pass. But you talked about the ultimate machine.
Yeah, that's where the See and Spray Ultimate really fits. And I've seen it kind of come to life for applications other than See and Spray.
Tell us what it is, the Ultimate.
So the See and Spray Ultimate is it's the See and Spray machine. It's a machine built around See and Spray technology. So you've got a tank split in two. Right now it's about a 65-35 split on the tanks. You've got 2 boom pipes, 2 pumps, 2 complete sprayers in one. So on a 1,600-gallon machine, you have a 1,000-gallon sprayer and a 600-gallon sprayer married together on one chassis. And then you added the cameras on top of that for the See and Spray technology.
So you can do a whole lot of different things with this sprayer.
Oh, it's been unbelievable. So there's for the ag retail market, I've seen a lot of advantages because I've seen places where they've wanted to go out and I had one example. They wanted to spray some white mold at 2 different rates on an area and at the same time lay down a burn down / residual pass. And so they were able to do that by using the 600-gallon tank for the white mold and bump the rates anywhere from 12 to 18 gallon to the acre and then spray a 15 gallon to the acre at the same time of a burn down / residual because you didn't want to vary that.
Right.
And then, on the high volume work, you've got 2 pumps, 2 sets of pipes, 2 plumbings. And so instead of one larger pump, you have 2 more medium-sized pumps that can output more than the one larger.
Right.
And they were able to spray, again, they kind of mixed the rate up. And, instead of 35 gallon to the acre, they did maybe like a 12 and then, whatever's left from that on the back and split it up and was able to drive faster than they normally would with a regular sprayer.
So those are a couple
just
hardcore examples that don't even have See and Spray.
Nothing to do with the cameras, but just the 2 products, being able to do that. And then a lot of folks over the years have talked about the herbicide or the fungicide pass on soybeans, being able to hit the volunteer corn.
Sure. Yeah. It's a great machine when you think about that for volunteer corn using the See and Spray while you're laying out, again, a fungicide pass or a foliar feed or a flat rate of something else. A great machine. Let's just say we're going to go out before we plant. We want to lay down a residual and then we want to hit whatever weeds are above. Yeah. Already there with the See and Spray portion of it. So
I actually had an example of that just a few weeks ago. We have a customer that's got 2 See and Spray premium pucks this year. And the manager of the location was on his farm he went out one day and laid down a residual pass, and then we went out a day or two later and like target sprayed the weeds that were out there with more of your contact herbicides. And he looked at it and he said, "Yeah, this works great. We need a 2-product machine to make it work right."
Yeah.
I said, "That's exactly what you need."
Yeah, as a retailer for sure.
Yeah.
So that would have been one pass accomplishing that with one
Yeah.
pass. So
Yep.
the options are amazing. The technology is amazing, and I just think that there's so many ways someone can use that See and Spray Ultimate machine multiple times through the year with both tanks, like you said. I mean, even in the See and Spray environment, talk about spraying the white mold, talk about maybe hitting the volunteer corn while we're laying out a fungicide, what we do pre-plant,
Or fall
spraying, of course, yeah, laying out,
blasting down a residual and then
Yep.
only hitting the weeds.
Yep. And again, to me, we're going to get dicamba has never left the chemical the program, right? We're still using it on corn. We've used it on corn for years. It's nothing new. We use it heavy in fall spray. So again, if you're laying down something like a Princept and you're wanting to spray the weeds that are there with a dicamba, maybe just the fact that we're using something sparingly, we're going to cut back on resistance and we're going to cut back on volatility, right, and off-target movement just because we can apply it only where we need to apply it. So I'm excited about the prospect of a lot of those things. What about nozzles? I got something up on my computer about nozzles.
I was just
for
looking
See
at
and
that
Spray.
because I can see your screen.
Yeah. So
On the See and Spray, is there something specific with nozzles that you've got to have?
yeah, that you have to have See and Spray approved nozzles, right?
And they have to be facing rearward.
Absolutely. And why is that?
They're facing rearward so that there's more time from when the camera see it to when the nozzle can fire on and create the pattern. That's something that I didn't think about, is the time it takes to create the pattern. There's new nozzles out that create that pattern quicker. And from what I've heard, so there's a couple things that are new advancements on the See and Spray is going to happen, is going to be able to use a downward facing nozzle,
Okay.
I believe, in the near future, and then being able to spray with the boom higher.
Okay.
But that's where the post application comes in on when you're broadcasting fungicide and spot spraying corn.
And we have some limits on speed and boom height at the moment. But yeah, you're right. There's an algorithm to calculate when the camera sees the weeds, and then turning that nozzle on, getting that spray pattern, and then allowing it to hit that weed as it passes under.
But the fact that it can see it, the camera's of course facing forward.
Yep.
And they can see like 2,000 square feet a second or something crazy as they're going. It's an amazing amount of data that they're bringing in. But to be able to see out in front of it, target the weed, recognize it, send it through the computer, tell the system to turn the nozzle on, for the solenoid to open and the pattern to form and hit it all within a matter of a second or two.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Pretty amazing.
It is.
And it works.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is it works. Every test I've seen or heard is they get a 98% kill rate, the same as what you get with broadcast spraying.
There's nothing better than having a technology that you've tested and it works.
Yeah.
And then you have that confidence. And just the nozzles themselves, you can read through the lineup. It looks like we're building on a platform that we've already had nozzles in. Yes, these nozzles are different than what we're going to use in a normal sprayer. They are earmarked for See and Spray, but they're built from our current nozzle platforms, right? We still have some low drift nozzles in there, a 3D version of that nozzle as well. So
Yeah, the 3D itself can be used.
yeah.
And then you talked about the ULD and the LDM.
Yep.
Both of those are used. They just have to be put in a different cap so that they're rearward facing.
Yep.
And then same with the extended range, which is an old standard
It's built
from
off of
years ago.
almost like a Guardian type nozzle. is it
Yeah,
not?
it's it's kind of like the old flat fan XRs from years ago, just a basic nozzle.
Yep.
Again, put in a different cap so it's facing backwards. And then there's new ones that they've come out, the targeted spray nozzles.
Yep. Yeah. Those are just another low drift, right? A low drift platform that are specifically for See and Spray. So again,
And with tighter, this is something else that is brought into the equation with See and Spray and nozzles, is the width of the nozzle pattern. Those are a 60 or an 80 degree nozzle versus some of those others are 120.
Right. So
And so again, that's just targeting, narrowing up the spray band to save more chemical.
you're balancing target rate width versus savings, right? Coverage versus savings, and there's a balance with See and Spray, coverage versus savings. So
The other thing with those targeted spray nozzles, because of the new design, they form their nozzle patterns much quicker.
nice. Yeah, so those are specifically designed for See and Spray as well. So again, to me, it's the same question: what are you going to spray with this machine, right? I've had guys ask me about See and Spray nozzles before, and the conversation quickly steered to buying more than one set. Again, of nozzles based on what you're applying, and I still think that's going to be the same we're going to have that same mentality, selecting nozzles for this system as we do for the regular ExactApply system.
Now, one thing I think that's kind of cool about the See & Spray is it's fancy new technology, latest and greatest, works amazing. But when it comes to sizing nozzles, you're looking at it based on speed and pressure.
Yep,
which is what we did 30 years ago.
That's in your wheelhouse. That's what I told them too. We lose all the duty cycles and all that stuff. We're going back to speed and pressure.
Just
on
speed
these,
and pressure,
keeping it simple. So it is a little easier to size those nozzles. That's for sure. So, and we have a speed limit right now of 15.
15 on the Ultimate, 16 on the Select, which is just green on brown only.
Yep.
And then 12 on the Premium.
Okay.
Which will be 15 next year.
12 on the Crossroads.
Yeah.
And 12 Crossroads.
So we've got a pretty tight speed range to size these nozzles.
And that is boom speed, not machine speed.
Yeah.
So when you're turning, that outside boom kicks up.
Yeah.
But the nice thing with the See & Spray is they've got fallback mode. So if the cameras can't see because of dust or trees moving them, or driving too fast, boom too high, whatever it may be.
Light.
Yeah, light or darkness, if you will. Lack of light, yes. It's got fallback mode, and you can choose what you want, whether you want to save chemical and have it not spray or just have it spray. And at that point, that section or those nozzles that are affected will be at a standard speed and pressure spray.
Yep. So some pretty good fail safes in there.
Now, there's a lot of pushback typically that I get from my seat on you're charging me to use this product. And so, yes, John Deere is charging to use it because of the technology. But by doing that, they keep the initial entry cost low, as we talked about earlier on the See & Spray Premium, whether it's a puck or a factory option.
The hardware itself
it's
is
lower
not,
cost.
Yes.
It's when you look at a See & Spray Ultimate, I haven't looked for 2026 pricing, but 2025 it was like $130,000 list price, and that seems like a lot of money. But you're getting 2 tanks, 2 pumps, 2 booms, 2 everything.
Yeah.
And so when you look at just the cameras and stuff, I mean, they put that on See & Spray, a puck kit. It's only like $20,000 or $25,000 for all the cameras, the wiring, the controllers. Well, it's really, really reasonable overall.
You're getting into it fairly reasonably.
And then with the pay to play mentality, you also get all of the updates that come with that. So next year, when the boom height moves from 47 inches above the ground to 47 inches above the canopy, you get that.
That's right.
No
and
extra
that's
cost. It's
that's
just part
a big
of it.
change.
Yeah.
Your speed on a See & Spray Premium going from 12 to 15. I mean, that's a 25% increase in speed, and you get it at no extra cost.
Yep.
So you buy the technology now, you get the new technologies, the updates later.
And I think it just keeps them accountable. I mean, if this technology doesn't work, you're not paying for it.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it is you can just shut it off and spray the old-fashioned way, and it doesn't change anything.
And it's like the software, the world that we're in. We're paying yearly, but we're getting those improvements. And if you look at the rate of improvement of this machine, it's been fantastic. I mean, how far it's
been
coming
so fast.
3 to 5 years.
It has been. Yeah.
And it's just like we talked about the new combine technology. The predictive ground speed. It's going to improve every year, and we've seen it. We've seen it. It's been amazing.
But the thing is, it's not improving. I mean, the algorithm's becoming quicker, and we're speeding up those controllers and the processing time. But the technology, the nuts and bolts of it was so advanced when it came out that there hasn't been a lot of upgrades to that other than just enhancing the overall requirements or constraints of the machine.
Yeah, I think the improvements we'll see in the hardware, which this may not come as part of your per acre pay to play cost. But, as you see these cameras out there right now, we're more of a visual camera, but to get any kind of NVDI, I think I said that right?
NDVI.
NDVI, had them backwards. If you get, that technology kind of built into it, and they're starting to look at
learning.
Yeah, learning. They're starting to look at like stand counts.
Yep. And there's a lot of conversations about that.
And like mass of product that's out there.
Yeah.
And then I think
we already have the biomass on the biomass cameras on the combine.
Yeah, and I think what we're going to start to see is with this See & Spray as things continue is we're not going to just look out there because right now the way it works is when you set up for soybeans, it looks for a soybean and anything else it will spray.
Yeah.
Same thing with corn. I think eventually we could see it get to where it
grasses
knows
versus broadleaves versus,
yes, it knows the weeds. Yep. So if you're going out and you're wanting to spray Palmer, and only hit Palmer because you're spraying that dicamba product, it's going to go out and know and spray that.
Which I would just like to note, that's more than some people can do because
right.
the Palmer versus water hemp, that's just
But that's the way it works. I mean, right now it knows what a soybean is, it knows what a corn plant is, and it sprays everything else or cotton, but we don't have any.
Which
of that
is just
up
an
here.
advancement from the green brown solution that we
Yes.
saw with AutoTrack Vision. So
Yeah.
It's gotten better and better. That's
Yep.
exciting to me. Is that what kind of machine learning are we going to have, or weed ID and
Yeah.
things like
And
that?
I
Are we,
think the
are we
big
going to be
thing
able to
with-
actually target the weeds specifically?
I think the big thing with that is right now people are paying other companies to do that, but they're still making passes with their own machines or the ASPs. You know, like we said, it might be a mentality shift where we shift from more of a services offered versus just the chemical or product applied.
Yep.
And that might have to be a conversation that happens in that industry in the future. But who am I to say? I don't have a crystal ball in front of me. So
But yeah, a lot of that's for the future. But I think I see a lot of it coming now. Now with all of this, the one thing that we do get is being able to not only you get an application map, but you get a weed map, so you can see where your weed pressure's at.
yeah,
And I've seen
a weed pressure map,
weed pressure map,
not
yes.
a specific weed
Not
map.
specific weeds, but weed pressure map.
Just want to call
but,
that out.
But what's interesting is, so I've seen it real life, and I've seen it in some examples. Is the examples of they're like, oh yeah, there's a lot of weeds right in here, and they're like, oh yeah, that's where we used to spread manure coming out of that barn right there.
Yeah.
And then I had a real life example. We were spraying, and we were in some muck ground, and the operator says, boy, I would have thought that it would have been weedier in the mucky ground. I said, did they fall spray? He said, yeah. I said, I'm guessing the muck ground held on to that chemical longer.
Wetter.
But what was interesting was off to the left side of the boom, there was one strip that was sprayed all the way through.
They missed.
And it was something to do with the combine, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I believe it was something to do with the combine, but there was one strip all the way through. And I talked to the owner of the land, the guy that farmed it, and he's the manager of this location, and he told me what it was. I don't remember exactly, but I believe it was something with the combine was having an issue or something there. And there was one strip out there that it was spraying out of a 120-foot boom. We had like 3 nozzles spraying one perfect strip all the way
All the
across.
way down. That's
Yeah.
so cool. Yeah. So the stories are plenty. The technology's here. It's working. You talk about the feedback, the weed pressure maps. I mean, this is information that's very valuable that growers are excited to see and can tell them a lot and tell
But I
some
think
stories.
and just in terms of technology and advancements, I mean, that's happening. That's kind of what the point of I wanted to get across in this podcast is we can see advancements in technology and we can improve our current spray system, application system, from anything from our selection of nozzles to utilizing ExactApply technology all the way up to the newest, latest, and greatest when we're talking See and Spray Ultimate. So
Yep.
there's advancements to be made. And yeah, Tim's here to help you if you want to.
Yeah.
That's right. Sprayer guy.
Sprayer guy.
Hey, we didn't. Who are our other sprayer guys? Sprayer guys.
Who are they?
We
Yeah.
want to give a shout out to.
Well,
him
we
in
have
2
Brent
minutes.
Hoylman over in Ohio. He's my counterpart over in Ohio.
Yep.
Just as knowledgeable, if not more so than I am, I'm sure.
Probably more so.
Probably more so. So we're the two guys that call in the ag retail market.
Yep.
There's others that I don't know them as well.
There's a lot of account managers that handle a lot of application equipment.
Yeah, they know the sprayers fairly well. And over in Ohio, there's a little bit more than there was here in our Indiana territory.
Yeah.
Just because of the history of the two companies before they merged.
Big technology, good stuff.
Yep, good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, it's always good to talk
Good
about.
stuff, great stuff.
It's not like this is the first time we've talked about any of this stuff on a podcast, but it just keeps getting better and it just becomes more and more ingrained in operations. And
Well, we did a podcast a year ago with one of the customers over in the Woodburn area that demoed a See and Spray machine last year.
Yep.
And almost a year ago, not quite, but almost. And Joe Webkin.
Yep, we've had
who's
Joe on too.
Yep. That was the big conversation was, is so excited to see what could be. And it was just brainstorming at that point. Your NDVI, your weed identification, some more of the crop health conversations coming to light. We're already making this passes. How can we make the most of it? And that was just kind of a what if brainstorming, in an ideal world kind of situation where we were just spitballing roundtable discussion about what could be. And then now here we are almost a year later and we're seeing that this really could be a thing.
A little bit more of it's coming to light.
It's a little
And
bit
I
more
think
solidified,
Yeah, as it continues on, it's going to continue to grow.
We're
Yep.
inching
And
towards it.
that technology will be used more and more on sprayers and utilized for more than what it is right now, for
And
sure.
it's exciting.
Yep, sure is.
Exciting place to be. Exciting time to be here.
That's right.
Tim, we're happy you could join us.
Yep, thanks for being on.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So until next time, like, follow, subscribe, and don't forget to comment or email us if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for future episodes.
Talk to you next time.